Hey everybody, this is Amy Satori from The Satori Show, a Podbean podcast that's all about pretty much self-empowerment, self-improvement, and all that is good stuff for you to grow and learn. And on this path, as you very well know, King Trident, um, it's all, it's a twin flame thing. Twin flames are all about self-improvement and raising the vibration of the planet. So that just happened to be something that I stumbled across. Um, I became aware that I am a twin flame, and so began the journey. Sucked me in like all the rest of you. And of course, when King Trident's tribe came out, I was so excited because I've always thought that a masculine should get this idea to just be open and vulnerable and just say it like it is from the male's perspective, or the female doesn't, the masculine energy. And I was so proud of him for doing this. And I was so excited because I thought if I could just get an honest masculine in front of me and just ask him whatever I want to ask, like what would it be? And I thought of all the frequently asked questions I get from all of you. Um, and yes, you can hear it from me till you're blue in the face, or till I'm blue in the face, but it's so cool to get it right from the horse's mouth. So I came up with frequently asked questions that I could ask for you guys in regards to what would y'all ask him if you had him in the room in one shot and could ask him everything you could possibly think to ask him. And so I've made a list for you guys, and it might be a little bit of a longer video, but it is going to be a very informative video, and we get him right here for as long as we want him to answer these questions for us that I know you guys are dying to ask him. And if you guys want to check out my podcast, it's www.thesatorishow.podbean.com. And you guys are welcome to listen to my take as well. And we did have a little talk the other night. We completely agree on all counts for the most part, but if he, should say anything and I feel like I want to be your guys' voice and kind of intervene, then I'm going to do so you guys get the answers you really want. So, because I hear these guys all the time and I know what they want to know. So this is like judge and jury time. But and I don't know if you guys have just probably learned about King's Trident Tribe. A lot of you are new, but he started fairly recently to kind of get back. He had a channel for a little bit and kind of put it aside for a little while, and then had some guidance to come back and try again. And it just like boomed overnight, of course, because this is perfect timing. A lot of unions are happening right now. We're about to, so we can now be prepared, better prepared. So thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me.
Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. All right. So you ready?
I'm ready to be bombarded, and I'm going to answer these questions to the best of my ability. However, if I can't answer one, I will let you know that I'm not unable to answer that question.
Okay.
And because I don't want to BS anybody, and I will tell you from what my intuition is telling me at this point, or from my experience, but I will say that I am not God, and I can't answer every single question, but I'm gonna try.
We're all doing the best that we can, honestly. And there have been a few things, like I've had some strong stances in the past, and my stance has changed. So it evolves too, as
I agree.
Okay. First question. Why doesn't the divine masculine just ask questions? Why do they gotta hide? Why don't they just come out and ask?
Well, that's a good question. And most divine masculines, depending on what stage they're in, they don't even know what's going on. So they don't really know to ask questions, because internally they're very confused. So it's very hard to ask questions about something you don't even realize what's going on. And it's kind of like being in class and talking about a subject that you don't understand, so you don't know the correct questions to ask or even where to start.
So then why not just say, like, hi, how are you?
Well, because most divine masculines are not in touch with their emotions, and they don't want to be seen as weak. And so uh, they don't want to, they want to be seen, and they want to continue their aspect of being tough and, you know, nothing not phasing them. And, you know, men are taught to like not cry or be in touch with their emotions or be the tough guy. But, and that's one reason why they don't ask questions, is because, for one thing, they feel like that they'll be seen as weak, or you know, maybe their friends will like make fun of them, or, you know, who knows. There's a lot of different aspects that go into it, depending on the person, the situation, and what's actually going through their head. It's very, that's a very, I mean, it's a simple question, but very complex depending on the situation.
Well, and I'm hoping that, I mean, one of, I think both of our missions is to help the divine masculines and feminines all come into like equality and balance. Right. And part of that is, I think, is I think our masculines are morphing and changing into them not having to hide their feelings anymore. You know, them being feel
absolutely. I mean, part of the equality is coming with imbalance of yourself. Because we all have masculine and feminine energy, and most of the time, actually, I would say I'll go on the record for saying 99% of the time, both your energies are unbalanced before you go into separation, which is one reason why you go into separation.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
So,
okay. So why do why do married divine, and these are not in any kind of particular order. Just kind of like randomly what came to me. You married divine masculines stay in their marriages and keep their divine feminines on the side holding on. Them, I would have to add to that, though, a lot of them are in very unhealthy marriages, showing that to their kids. You know, this is how to people please and stay in a marriage you're miserable in, even though you have your true love on the side. It was a much better fit for you, and you guys would actually make probably a very much happier family.
Yeah. Interesting. You should ask that question, because actually today, on my own channel, I'm going to be doing a video on karmic relationships, and if your twin or both twins are in a marriage. But what I will say is that kind of plays in with the first question you asked, because more than likely, whichever, if it's the divine masculines in a marriage, we'll just use that example. More than likely, they're confused on what they need to do, even though they know that they feel very connected to the other person. I'll just put it this way. I felt very connected immediately to my divine feminine. Like the first time I met her and I looked in her eyes and seen her soul, I was like, wow, it was so energetic. Even though I was not in a marriage, she wasn't in a marriage. I'm just thinking from the outside in, is if I was in a marriage and I met somebody like that, it would really confuse the hell out of me. And I would just be like, what do I do? You know, because we think of, you know, marriage as being very sacred. You take vows. You know, if you have kids, there's a lot of different aspects involved. A lot of times people stay in the marriage for kids, even though they're unhappy. And that's not, I won't say that it's right or wrong, although I will say that I do feel that, you know, it's better to teach your kids a proper relationship and how true love should be than to stay in an unhappy marriage and basically make them grow up in an unhealthy atmosphere. But I will say that it comes down to, once again, the person and how they feel and where they are in the stages of, you know, their awakening. Maybe they're probably not awake. I mean, a lot of times, I will say that a lot of times people have to go through marriages to teach them a lesson. It's by design. And the lessons that you need to learn is different for each person. But the twin flame connection is a very sacred connection, actually one of the most sacred connections. And the divine doesn't want, well, actually, I'll go back. The divine, the connection cannot fail. Like, let's put it that way. It can't fail. Like, this is why you have to go through these type of situations, because you have to be able to recognize the things that you need to resolve before you get into connection. And sometimes it's the lessons by being in a relationship with somebody else and understanding what true love actually is, because the love that you have in your twin relationship will be like no other than any other relationship that you've ever been in. And you need to learn to appreciate that. And you won't be able to appreciate it until you've been in other situations to know exactly what you have.
Yeah. Well, and wouldn't you agree that, like, I think one of the some of the masculine's major challenges are people pleasing, societal standards, like what's expected of them, and money.
I think that's people in general.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think that's directly tied to a divine masculine, because once again, I mean, that's just society in general. Society teaches you just by commercials of what you should and should not do. And that's, I mean, personally for me, that's why I don't watch TV, because I don't need society telling me what I need to do. I know within the truth. Your intuition will speak the truth to you. You know what you need to do. And like a lot of times, I will say that I'll go on the record. Most of the time, the emails and comments that I do get, the people already know exactly the truth before they ask me. I can tell they know.
That's
And
true.
the only thing I do is I confirm exactly what they're thinking. So, and I can't take credit for any of that, because I already know they know the truth.
That's another good point, is I think that all of us are learning to listen to and rely on our intuitions more at this time.
Right.
Okay, so why do they self-sabotage and do like self-fulfilling prophecies? So like, I know you'll just leave me anywhere, so they push her away. That's one example. Or like, oh, you're just gonna such and such. And say the feminine is nothing like that. Nothing at all like that. They just like pigeonhole their feminine. Like, or I've always fought in every relationship I'm in. So it's like they are so like programmed for that to happen that they look for it, they seek it out, and they push you away until you do it. Or whatever. It's like they create what they're fearing the most.
Right. So
seen that
basically that comes down to fears are within themselves. So,
yes.
you know, if for instance, your divine masculine has went through a series of relationships, and the women that he's been with have always ended up leaving him, he's going to have the fear of abandonment. And more than likely, that fear of abandonment started from when he was a child. And he's always expected the person to leave him. And so basically that's how he goes into the relationship, is with a lack of abundance idea, where, you know, I know this is only going to last a limited amount of time, and this person's going to go ahead and leave me. And so part of their, I guess, instincts in a way is to, instead of, it's kind of like protecting themselves. They push them away because they think already that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Right.
So that's,
how do you get them to open up out of that? Because I think one of the things that causes separation in twin flame couples is a lack of taking personal responsibility. That.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do you get them to, like, do they just have to keep dating karmics the rest of their lives until they grow out of that and they start giving their divine feminine like the benefit of the doubt? Or like, you know?
Okay, well, let's put it this way. Everybody's story is different. So if I was to say that, I would be wrong in saying that, because everybody's story is different, and people learn in a different way. And then sometimes, depending on the situation, some people and the person, they will learn a lot quicker than other people. So yeah, there is a possibility that you have to go through a series of karmic relationships before, hey, you stop being the brick and you understand exactly what it is that you need to do inside of yourself. Because, and another thing is more than likely, what they're mirroring to their divine feminines is something that's inside the divine feminines too. And so, because twin flames marry each other. So more than likely, like I know that my twin and we married each other, even though I didn't realize that at the time. And but I was the type of person that was always like, what is wrong with her? Like, why is she having that behavior? You know, and I was like looking at her like, you're the problem, not me. And even though I didn't say you're the problem, a lot of things that I did say in the way that I said them was communicating, you are the problem. And so, like, for instance, I had that mentality too, that, hey, you know, this is probably only going to last, you know, however long, and then this person's going to leave me. And
Yeah.
I mean, eventually she did, but there was a lot of reasons. I mean, when being in a twin, you're going to separate more than likely anyway. I have seen a couple of circumstances where twins do have contact while they're in separation, but they have contact still, and they give themselves enough space where there's no expectations, and they're able to work on themselves without interference from each other. But that's very rare in my experience, and more than likely that's probably the 2%. I bet 98% goes into separation. So I would just say that it's probably limited based feelings within themselves, because lack of abundance, and what you put out in the universe is what you attract. And the other thing is it's lessons that they have to learn, and it just depends on the person and the situation for how long it takes for them to wise up and not be that brick.
I love when you talk about being the brick. It's great that we can.
Hey, I was the brick, man. I know. I probably built a brick house with as many bricks as I had.
Was there anything that she did that helped kind of soften your bricks?
No.
Did she just leave you plenty?
Oh yeah. Actually, yeah, it was. But she don't realize that she did it. But whenever she finally cut communication and separated, yeah, that was whenever that was the most devastating thing that she could have probably ever done. And when she did that, that was kind of like putting boundaries up. I always talk about boundaries with people and healthy boundaries. You know, regardless if she knows it or not, she probably does, because she's very intuitional and very smart. But once she did that and put those boundaries up, boy, I tell you what, all the bricks came down crumbling to the ground. And that's whenever I was fully exposed and was able to, it took a while. It wasn't immediately, but, about 4 months later, I started looking within then, but 4 months later, I had a really good idea of what was going on. And then 2 months after that, so let's see, April, I had a really good idea, but then in June, so about half the year, that's whenever I was definitely in dark night of the soul and going through my awakening. And boy, that was a very difficult time. There was no way to ignore that. Once you get to that point, you can basically, you're self-sabotaging yourself by ignoring it, because the divine will just keep throwing things at you until you basically break. And I was smart enough. I will say that I was smart enough not to get to that point, but if I was a tree branch, I was on my last splinter before breaking. And then I was like, oh, changes need to be made, man. This is like an emergency situation. You stop doing the insanity thing, because it ain't working. So
did you see were you thinking about her lots, and did you see lots of signs and synchronicities? Is that the thing breaking you? Or
no, I think about her all the time. Like it's very hard. Actually, okay, hold on a minute. I'll take that back. So immediately, so we went into full separation December, and then January, I made a choice to basically try to block her out of my life, and I deleted everything, like pictures, her phone number, her, just anything that had to do with her. And so I went from like January to April without pretty much thinking about her or anything like that. But in April, like there was something that happened that it was just like I went through this point where for some odd reason I just kept on thinking about her. Like it was weird. And I was like, why all of a sudden you started thinking about her? Because I got to the point where I was very comfortable not thinking about her and basically detaching fully, where I just did not think about her at all. And then it was like I had some dreams, and and then I just kept thinking about her. Like it was weird. It was like you need to think about her. You know about this connection. Stop ignoring it. It was like something was talking to me inside. And so from that point on, there isn't a day that doesn't go by that I don't think about her.
So why would you put, like, this is one of our other questions.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you go into denial like that? Some of them outright say, no, you're not my twin flame. Or they say, no, I don't see any signs, any synchronicities. And she's over there going, but you got to be feeling it, because I am. I mean, I'm getting bombarded over here. Like, why do you guys, like, so why do some guys, maybe you didn't do this, I don't know, but why do some of the masculines just completely block it out?
Protection. Personal protection. And, you know, it goes back to the question you asked me before about why do they self-sabotage? You know, it's personal protection, because a lot of them have limiting beliefs and they're confused at what's actually going on. Probably a lot of them are not spiritual based either. So when you're not spiritual based, you don't believe in that stuff. You automatically dismiss it. You don't look into it. You don't want to accept it. And the only thing that you want to do is move on, because it's fear-based and it's also very painful. Like the connection is very painful, because it causes your fears and insecurities and anything that you have deep inside that you didn't want to deal with to surface. It's the oil rising to the top of the water. And they think, like I said in my last video, they think it is you. It's the divine feminine that's causing it. And they're like, well, I need to get away from her because she's the cause of my pain. And that's the way a lot of times it happens. And that's why a lot of times you go into separation. I mean, separation is by design, but that is how you enter separation is you get to that point. Basically, it's unrecoverable at that point, because you both have personal things that you need to work on.
Yeah, and it's like, however, I mean, there's usually so many differences. There are age differences. There are, there's religion. There's even being across the world from each other. There's so many differences that it's like, if I were to go that direction, that would like wreck my world as it is. I want to be comfortable, somebody who's in the same religion, somebody who is the same race, somebody who is the same age, all of that. So it can be nice and comfy, cozy.
Yeah.
My whole world doesn't have to change, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's by design.
Yeah,
and,
exactly. Because we all learn to unconditionally love by being hypnotized.
I mean,
to that.
Not only that, you know, the twin flame journey itself is not easy. It never will be easy. And that's by design. And you're not only supposed to help humanity, but also it's to show them the type of love that really does exist and nobody thinks actually exists.
Yes.
And I'm not talking about the fairy tale love story. I'm talking about actually loving everybody.
Yes. Yes. Great point. Because I was just going to do a little video on this too, about how if you're still acting really neurotic and you need to constantly be reassured that your masculine loves you and you're just like needy, do you really think that you're going to go right into union with your twin flame and be able to sustain that relationship? Be able to, no.
The divine won't let it happen.
Separation. You can't be neurotic and get into a healthy twin flame or any true love relationship. And there are other true love relationships, but yeah, you've got to be mature. That's why I always tell the divine feminines to be using active tools to work on their mentality and, develop themselves, use self-improvement, whatever they got to use to like rise above these feelings of abandonment and hurt that they go through on their part.
Right.
so that they can be ready. Like we talk about, it's like, it's a boot camp.
It comes down to this.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about being in the goddess, empress, queen power. But in order to get to that power, you have to train like one.
Yes.
Because it takes training for a queen to become a queen. She didn't come out of her mom's womb being a queen. Yeah, she might have the title of being a queen, but she didn't act like a queen. And that goes before
right.
the divine masculine is he has to go through training to become a king, because you know for a fact that he's a joker. That dude, all he's doing is tap dancing and juggling all the time. I did the same thing. I know.
And some of them lie.
I mean, you know, they might do that. I mean, they'll do anything to avoid pain.
Yes.
So
true. That is so true. And you know what's really funny is like when you get on the other side, and I'm sure you see this now, but when you get on the other side of like personal development and you face your demons and you take a look at those things that you were running from before, doesn't it become pretty hilarious, the stuff you were running from and how really easy it was to overcome once you did? It's like, so stupid. I didn't just look at it.
I laugh at myself all the time. You know, I'll just put it this way. You know, everybody knows that I didn't know exactly what a twin flame relationship was, but my divine feminine, at some point I asked her what energy she felt with me, and the only reason I know this is because I had this experience where like 10 to 12 text messages showed up in my pictures somehow, and I deleted everything on my phone. But somehow just 10 to 12 showed up in my phone. It was limited. It wasn't like there was a whole like conversation between a period of time. It was only a few. And these are a series of events that happened to me that actually when I was going through my awakening. I was like, what the heck? How'd that happen? I'm like, I don't have any of this stuff in my phone. And but it just appeared. And one of those conversations that I read, we were having a conversation about energy, and I was like, what kind of energy you feel with me? And she's like, past, present, and future, lifetime twin flames. And she knew about the connection and what she felt way before I knew, because I looked at my response and I was like, she was like, well, what do you feel with me? And I'm like, I feel like that we've known each other at some point, but I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm like, and then I was like looking at it, I'm like, man, what a lame response. I'm like, I should have jumped you right down the spot, idiot.
Oh, that's great. So you did see lots of signs and synchronicities eventually when you were
I seen signs and synchronicities even before I even realized. I just didn't know what they were.
Oh, can you give an example? What do you mean?
Well, I was still, I actually was working on myself for about, I'm in 2017. So probably about 2 years before I met her. So I met her in 2017. And so 2015, I was going through a divorce, and then that caused me to look within, because I knew that at that time I was going through a lot of developing myself and self-improvement and changing a lot of things in my life. But instead of me focusing on blaming somebody else for my divorce, which I did have some blame and resentment. I mean, I think that's just natural. But at the same time, I was looking at myself and like, what did you do? Why did you do certain things? And so I was working on myself before, and then as I've told many people, 2015 I was going through a divorce. 2016 in February, actually, on Valentine's Day of 2016, my mom passed away. So I was going through divorce with that. Then 5 days later, my dad passed away.
Oh my goodness.
And so I was going through three deaths basically at once. And at that time, I had a lot of spiritual experiences, and then I was having synchronicities. Like for instance, 333 really resonates with me for particular reasons. And then I started understanding that for some odd reason, the number 9 always pops up in my life. It always pops up. And even my favorite number, the sum of my favorite number is 9. And I started looking at that and I'm like, this is not coincidence. And and then I had a spiritual experience with my dad, and basically it had to do with 333, and so from that point on, I was like watching numbers, and I had ran into a lady that was my friend, and she started telling me about auras and about numbers and about how the angels talk through numbers, and I started doing research about that and figured out that that's true. And and so now then I did pay attention to numbers. I wasn't fully aware on every aspect, but I was aware of a lot of synchronicities that were going on, and a lot of that had to do with the personal experiences that I went through. And not everybody is going to be on that page, because when you go through dramatic experiences and those type of experiences, you come awakened really quick. So I probably went through more than one awakening now that I think about it. It was awakening on different levels. And I think that they did that is by design, because I mean, if they just, it's kind of like the example I gave in one of my videos, where if you just say you just jump into a bath of cold water, I mean, you're going to tense up. So they have to do it kind of slow, because if not, you'll be in shock.
Yeah.
So it's a period of time. It's a period of time that you have to go through these different training events, and so that way not only do you learn, but so that way that you're not shocked by it.
Well, what about the feminines who kind of, they've been waiting for so many years and they don't see much progress, and maybe even their masculines are like, I'm never coming around. I'm never coming around to your side. Do they know when they can move on? Because I think one of the fears of the feminines is that they might end up with a karmic, or they might end up in a situation where they found a soulmate, and then the masculine's going to show up, and all of a sudden here I am, and they're married or whatever. What would your advice be to those feminines who have given up and their masculines are still not coming around? Like, what would you say to them?
The first thing I would say is that you need to look within, because really you need to know what your truth is and what you actually really do want. This is a world of free will, meaning that you don't have to be, I don't believe that all twin flames come into union. Mm-hmm. And maybe part of your story is that you don't come into union. You do have personal choice in that matter.
Yep.
It's not to say that that's your destiny and that's exactly what's going to happen. You know, free will is involved with it. And if you choose to go a different route, then that's your personal choice. And nobody's going to hate you for that. I mean, the divine is not going to hate you for that. And, I would just say that you need to do what makes you happy. Because if happiness lies within. And if you're not happy with yourself, then ain't nobody else going to make you happy either. And a lot of people do go into union with a soulmate. And, soulmates, the connection and the relationship with a soulmate is a lot easier than a twin flame. And, they won't trigger the stuff that your twin is going to trigger in you, which is why it's so difficult, and why, the connection is so, it's just so spiritual based and protected, because once you go through all that work and you do come into union, it's like heaven on earth, and nobody knows exactly what that is. But when you come in that connection, you will know. And that's the only way that I can explain it, where you understand that you have to go through basically hell in order to get the prize. Because if you didn't go through hell, then for one thing, you can't help humanity, because you wouldn't know any of the situations and how to deal with them, and you couldn't express it to other people. And the other thing is the twin flame connection has value to it. If you didn't go through hell, there wouldn't be any value in it. Mm-hmm. You have to be able to get through those tough times in order to be able to have that connection with your twin, and they have to learn. You have to learn, and it's just a tough situation. So I would just say that you need to listen to your intuition, because your intuition is the truth. And that actually will tell you
Yes.
what you need to do.
Yes.
I can't tell you what to do and what not to do. I would say do what makes you happy.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I would also say that like you can have a high, as long as you are in a high vibrational match, then you're raising the vibration of the planet still. And you can still concentrate
Absolutely.
on building your unconditional love, and you can even use outside circumstances like your awful boss or like,
Yeah.
that happen to keep raising your vibration. Like
Yeah.
I've come to I've come to a point with my own twin flame journey where my twin flame and I think we're both really learning and growing from each other, but I'm not sure there will ever be anything, um, like in a romantic sense
Yeah.
between us
Well,
at this point. So, but I'm happy with that, and we still grow and we learn from each other. We still have this really incredible connection. But I personally am in more resonating now with a high vibrational match. I would never go back to a karmic. I wouldn't go to a relationship that was abusive or harmful or any of that. And I think most of
right.
the clients have developed enough now to where they're really self-aware and they're not going to get themselves in that situation. They see the red flags so much faster than they
Right.
did before, and they just like, no, no, no. And a lot of them have even been saving themselves. So these are
Right.
smart women who aren't just going to fall for some karmic partner, you know.
That's good. Yeah. I mean, you should never fall for a clown. I mean, I feel
Yes.
the same way. I mean, people are just like, why don't you date? I'm like, because I already know what I want. I'm
Yeah.
like, and I'm happy with myself right now. Like, I have, I really don't have any initiative for that. And not only that, to me, that's like a full-time job. And I have other more important things I need to do right now than that. And also, I love to continue to work on myself, and I like to be able to, I just like being able to do that and help other people. So, but no, I mean,
Yeah.
when you go through these situations, you don't have to worry about getting in a relationship with a karmic, because you already learned exactly to spot those
Yes.
people right there on the, when you meet them, yep, this person is this, you
Yep.
know, and
This guy's a player.
yeah, exactly.
This
And
guy's wounded.
yep, exactly. And then, it's your personal choice what you do with them.
Yeah. What would you say to the divine feminines who feel rejected and unlovable during that separation period? What can they do for themselves? Would you say that help them not take it personally
Yeah.
during that phase?
Well,
And a lot
you
of
know,
times I will add, and why during that phase do the divine masculines a lot of times pretend to be happy with karmic partners and rub it in their face. So not only are they not feeling loved and accepted and unlovable, but they have the karmics thrown in their faces as well.
um,
What do you think that whole thing's for?
well, I would just say this. Like I said before, happiness starts within. And so if you're feeling rejected, or I know it's a tough situation, because I've been there. I know. I mean, I'm not the one that cut off communication from my divine feminine. So I know what it's like to have that happen to you. And it's a very tough situation. But once you become whole within yourself, mind, body, and soul, and I'm talking about, you've addressed your healing, you've addressed self-development, self-improvement, and these are things that it's not like you start them and stop them. You have to continue going, and you're going to continue to do this for the rest of your life. And once you really focus on healing your mind, body, and soul, and coming whole, then everything else just seems to like fall into place. It's not that you won't never miss your divine counterpart, because I miss my divine counterpart, but I also come to the conclusion as, I'm happy if she's with me, but I'm just as happy if she's not with me, because I'm happy with myself. And so, I mean, it is what it is, and I can't control that. The only thing I can control is, in my span of control, is me. and everybody has personal choice. So, you know, if you don't learn to focus on those things and really become happy within yourself, you're going to be unhappy for the rest of your life. Yeah. Because there's a possibility that you don't come into union for whatever reason. It's, you know, your story might be different than other people, and so it's better to work on yourself and become happy within yourself. You know, pray, meditate, go walk in nature, become grounded. Watch the small things, like, you know, for instance, like one thing that, you know, always happens to me is this: hummingbirds always come around me for some reason. And I just enjoy that because, you know, I know that it's like a spiritual experience for me, because literally, like last year, I had a hummingbird that almost landed right on my shoulder. And my cousin was like talking to me, and she's like, wow, she's like, look at that. It's like birds like come. I'm like, yeah, I know. I attract them. I don't know why. But anyways, yeah. So, I mean, you got to think about the mirroring effect too. So, basically, if you feel rejected, well, that's what your divine masculine feels like too. And a lot of times, you know, they go to the karmic relationships because those are a lot easier for them, and they're lessons they have to learn. And because they had that mentality of, you know, well, it was just going to end sooner or later. Right. So, and
best that it not even begin.
Yeah, they don't even know about the connection more than likely. I mean, I know I didn't know that. So my idea, whenever I was with my divine feminine, was I'm just dating another girl that I have a connection with.
Right.
And I was like, and so like, I didn't know about any of that stuff. I mean, I didn't treat her disrespectfully or anything like that, but like,
you didn't realize what you had.
Well, I knew that she was awesome and stuff. Like, no, I always treated her with respect. I mean, I grew up that way. I mean, I had manners and stuff, but I did do some things that were wrong. That was just more or less the things that I did wrong was deflecting instead of inward reflecting. And so I didn't realize she was mirroring what was inside of me until we were in a full separation, and then those bricks come crumbling to the ground, and like, yay, look, all the stuff you just said about her is everything that's inside of you. And now you understand you're a dumbass, and you should have been looking within the whole time. So that's the thing is, you know, I would just say, you know, you can't be a queen if you're feeling rejected or something, because you know what, you're a high value asset. If you're a queen, you're a high value asset. That means that you come from you should be looking at it from a abundant mindset than the lack of abundance. I mean, because more than likely, if you're a high value queen, you're gonna have plenty of guys that want to date you. And I'm talking about quality guys, not just these clowns that come around just trying to hook up with you. I'm talking about, like, you're gonna have soulmates that are attracted to you. You attract what kind of energy you put out into the world. So you're gonna have soulmates show up. You'll have, you know, people that you have connections with that are not clowns, and whether or not it works out with that person, you know, who knows? But the thing is you always have personal choice involved. So if you do say you get with a soulmate and your divine masculine actually wakes up and works on themselves and comes back in as a king, you have personal choice whether or not you want to, you know, not go along with the soulmate relationship and actually go into union with your divine masculine at that point.
Right. So what do thank you for that. What do the gals do, or the feminines do, if they're with their twin, but the twin won't totally commit? Like, he's always got one toe in and one toe out, what about the feminines that are like friend zoned? Either friend zoned or like they won't go to the next level. It's like they're going out, but they won't move in together, or they've been living together forever and they won't get married. You know, it's like, what do the divine feminines do?
This is the easiest question I think you've asked me. You put boundaries up. That's what you do. You put boundaries up out of respect for yourself.
Boundaries are key.
You have to healthy boundaries should be initiated in the beginning, no matter what. No matter what, no matter if you're a twin flame or any other relationship. and you need to put boundaries up. And, you know, boundaries help you in a lot of ways. I mean, you know, because you can tell what kind of person they are, you know, when you put boundaries up and how they react to the boundaries. And if they come in and they did try to disrespect, or they say you know, boundaries are like a fence. If they try to jump that fence, then you know what to do. You need to go and you need to get rid of that person probably.
Yeah.
Right? You can address it however you want to, but basically you need to say, hey, you know what? You didn't respect my boundaries, and so here's the consequences. You're the queen. You're the queen. You're the queen of swords. The queen of swords gonna cut that dude. The queen of swords does not mess around.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know. My divine feminine she's an air sign, queen of swords. She embodies that. She's very quick to like let me know that, hey, you just effed up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And she's like, no. She's like, I'm about to cut you right now, and you ain't gonna like it. And as soon as that happens, and you know she cuts you, then yeah, now you got to go into a dark space and lick your wounds, because you don't mess around.
Yeah, the twin flame is not a special, and it's not a special exception, you guys.
No, it's not. It's
treat them like
boundaries are boundaries.
Yeah, and one of the examples I like to use is like when they come to the door, just peek out, you know, keep the little chain on there and peek out and be like, is he coming from the heart? Is he being is he being real with you, or is he being all player, or is he lying to you, or is he, you know, just peek at how he's being and close the door if he's not there, because your room, that your home that you're inviting him into is a sanctuary, and it's beautiful, and peaceful, and it's happy. And why would you bring anybody in, you know, past that chain if they're not showing up the way you want them to, you know?
Right. Yeah. I mean, all joking aside, you know, you put those boundaries up. It does, like I said, it does protect you. It does protect the other person. And it shows self-worth for one thing, because nobody, for me, I want to date a queen. I don't want to date a princess. And whenever I see those boundaries up, I'm like, okay, well, she has self-respect. That's awesome. You know, if I don't see those boundaries in the beginning, like, I don't really care. Not that I'd go date a lot of people, but I don't even want to date you, like, because you don't have self-respect.
That's right.
Like, I'm looking for a particular person here. I mean, that's how I disqualify people too, is by things that you do with me. Like, if I don't see that, then I'm like, all right, well, there's the first clue. Yeah. You know the old saying, you know, if a person tells you something, whatever, if 2 people tell you something, scratch your head. If 3 people tell you something, you might want to make a change.
Right.
So,
because you've become the king. Now your standards are higher too.
Right. I mean, and that's out of respect for myself too.
Yeah. Yes. So why, I mean, some of the masculines come forward and they give false hope, you know, they come in like a valiant knight and they're like, let's make this happen. I love you. Here's what's been going on this whole time. You were right. I've been watching all those collective readings online and they totally resonate, or whatever, you know, and then they come right in and they're just awesome. And then they leave again and they completely back to ghosting. Like, they'll get so intimate with their feminine and then they take off again. What
of course they do.
Is that about?
Well, there's a few things that is going on. Like, first and foremost, it goes back to boundaries. And if you didn't enforce boundaries in the beginning, I mean, my take is, you know, I want to date my divine feminine before we have any kind of intimacy, because I want to see what kind of energy she's in. And I want to make sure that, you know, hey, you've done self-work. I believe you've done self-work. It's kind of like that old saying, trust but verify. You know, I trust you did the work, but I want to verify.
Yeah.
And so I would say that's a start. Put boundaries up. And don't, like, I know that there's going to be like a very strong connection between 2 people, but at the same time, you want to make sure that they're in the correct energy and that they're actually coming back for the right reasons. Because if they're not coming back for the right reasons, and you'll be able to tell through all the different things I told you, like look in their eyes, you know, take your time in the connection, like really take your time. Like just don't go full blown and jump back into, being around each other every single day. You want to take your time and you want to evaluate what that person, who they are, if they've changed, what kind of energy they're bringing to the table. And if they don't like that, well, that's your first clue right there. Then you need to say, you know what, you need to continue to do some work because I don't like this. And this is what I want in my relationship. And you need to tell them what you want. I'm like, what do you want out of our relationship? If they can't come with a list of things that they want out of the relationship, well, they might need to go back and do some thinking.
Yeah.
And then,
but why do they do that? Why do they come forward and they
because they do.
So great, and then they pull back.
Because they actually miss the divine feminine, for one thing. They actually really do. The other thing is sometimes, like I said, they haven't fully healed. They haven't fully got to the point. Like I give the analogy of the butterfly effect. So until you're at that 80 or 90% of healing and personal development, union will not work. Because when you start out as a caterpillar, more than likely, both twins start out caterpillar. Caterpillars meet up, they enjoy, the springtime or whatever, and then they separate and go to the cocoon. And that's whenever they work on themselves. And that's whenever they, all the personal development, all the personal healing, self-improvement, all that happens within the cocoon. Then once all that's done, then they come out of the cocoon as a beautiful butterfly.
Yeah.
And the beautiful butterflies, then they meet up in the union. But, if one person is doing all the work and another person's not doing the work, and they could be in cocoon for years, well, that butterfly is going to be flying around the cocoon and nothing can happen. So that's why, sometimes they do miss, they miss the divine feminine, but then they'll come back not in the correct energy. And then they'll, the connection causes a lot of fears and insecurities that they probably thought they dealt with again.
Right.
And they didn't deal with them in the correct manner. And so the connection by itself has so much energy, but then whenever you are intimate with your partner, that's even more energy. And the connection is just overwhelming. And it causes those fears and anxieties, whatever it is, to come back to the surface. And they're like, damn it, it's still not healed. I thought it was healed, but then you find out it wasn't.
That makes a lot of sense.
And then you have to separate again because you came too early. This is why separation is so important, and that you use that time wisely to really dive deep inside of yourself and make sure that you healed every single thing that you need to heal.
That made me just think of you're invited, you don't know, you think you heard it, you're invited to a costume party and you show up as a clown instead of it was a toga party and you weren't told.
Yeah, exactly.
Walk in the door,
exactly.
You're standing there going, oh.
Exactly.
Kick off because you're oh, I didn't realize it was a toga party.
Yep. And then you feel rejected.
Yeah. It was oh man, I'm out of here. Okay, so why do some of the divine masculines, why are they not there in emergency situations? You would think during special occasions like Christmas and New Year's, and you would think that when somebody has a friend, your twin has a friend that dies, or big things happen sometimes for the divine feminine. The divine masculine just acts like it didn't happen, doesn't reach out. In fact, even if she'll ask him to be there. I've seen this. They'll say, "Please, my son died at this date, and every year I just go through such a depression or whatever. Can you please be there for me?" And it's they will sabotage it. It's they will either not do a thing, or it's like deer in the headlights. They don't show up during those emergency type situations or holidays. Why? What happens there? What's that about? Is it the pressure? Is it I can't take the pressure of being there for her?
Yeah, I think, these kind of questions are very dependent on the person and situation. But like I said before,
so common,
Like I said before, the connection causes the old to rise to the top of the water. And if you just think about that for a minute, if they're trying to work on themselves and try to figure out what's going on, they're so confused, and the connection is so painful that they don't even want to subject themselves to coming back in, because it causes to just hit them right in the face, basically. Every single time they come back in, which is why they stay away, which is why they ghost you, which is why they block you, which is why they run. They don't want to deal with that stuff. I mean,
How can it hurt
it's kind of like sticking your finger into a light socket. How many times you gonna stick your finger into a light socket before you figure out it hurts?
Yeah, but what about, hey, Happy New Year? What's wrong with that? How's that going to hurt? How's that going to hurt the guy or the girl, whatever case?
I mean, I think sometimes they come to the aspect of it's better just to not have communication at all than to have communication. Because if we were having communication, we would be together, but, you know.
Okay.
And so, I mean.
It's opening up a can of worms.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like giving false hope. And
it's like a trick.
Yeah, it's like giving false hope. And then also, a lot of the DMs actually really do care about the divine feminines, and sometimes they will do that out of protection for them, because they don't want to hurt them any more than they've already hurt them.
Yeah.
And so it's not, even though they're taking it as the divine masculine is hurting me, they're not here, whatever. The divine masculine might be doing it because he's like, man, he's like, if I reach out, it's going to give false hope, and it's probably going to cause, because they know women are emotional beings, and they don't want to hurt them any more than they've already hurt them. Now, there is other divine masculines that are not that aware, and that's when the ones you'll see coming in and out of your life like a yo-yo.
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
There's no quick answer to that, or even one answer that's going to be effective. It will depend on your situation, but I just want to say that, you know, divine masculines, a lot of them don't do things just intentionally to hurt the divine feminines. I know that things that I did are mainly, it was things that I said. It wasn't really anything I did, but I did it unintentionally, because I was very confused, didn't know anything about the relationship. I was trying to figure it out, but obviously I was on the wrong path. And then I would say things that actually ended up hurting her. And I was like, why does that hurt you? I don't know why that hurts you, you know? And I was confused. It wasn't because I was
being a jerk.
Because I didn't care or anything. It was just, I didn't understand. So.
Okay, that makes sense. I was going to ask how the divine feminines and masculines can best support themselves through separation, but I mean, it's setting boundaries and working on yourself pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, it all ties in together. Everything that we talked about ties in together, and the best way you can support yourself is by doing all those things, and making the most out of your time in separation. Like working on yourself, like eating right, going to the gym, mind, body, and soul, praying, meditating. And I'm talking about deliberately doing these things. I'm not talking about, I don't want to do it. No, you got to do it every day. Like, you really have to deliberately work on them.
Your best, yeah.
I mean,
I like that.
It's a life-changing experience for yourself. And even if you don't end up, you just became the best version of yourself, the most beautiful butterfly, the best goddess, the most powerful goddess in the world. And you know what? You're going to be even more awesome than you were before.
Yeah. Awesome. Yes. Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say, how do they heal resentment? What's the best way for a lot of the feminines felt like they've been through the ringer with if they feel like they've been ill-treated. And as you said, a lot of times they don't even realize that they're hurting them.
Right.
And this kind of even goes back to that thing where, they'll pretend that they're happy with their karmic, and that hurts them. So they've been through all this really hurtful stuff. How do they get over that to be receptive when he finally does show up? Like, what would you suggest what should their attitude be so that they can have their hearts open after all that pain that they were put through, seemingly?
All right. So don't take this the wrong way, whoever's watching this. Um, basically, if that's the case, then you shouldn't be meeting back up with your divine counterpart because you're not embodying unconditional love.
Mm.
And so unconditional love is loving without expectations, meaning the past is the past. You know, you're not going to change the past. That chapter is already written. I posted something on Instagram the other day that had to do with that, but the past is the past. It's already written. Right now, you're writing the present and the future chapters, and you make it whatever you want it to be. If you wanted to make it like just like the past, well, keep going down that same path of hating the divine masculine and treating them that way. Why are you in this relationship if you're going to have this type of feelings toward somebody when you're supposed to be embodying the light and unconditional love? If that's the case, you might want to take a different route.
Yes.
It starts with yourself. And if you're not, to me, that's the first sign of you still have some work to do.
Mm.
Because, you know,
You have your guard up. Yeah.
Yeah, you have your guard up, then they're not going to want to come back in because the guard's up and they're like, I don't want to be cut by the Queen of Swords. You know,
Yeah.
divine masculines might be a little bit dumb, but they ain't that dumb. If they are, they deserve to get cut.
I think it's also so important in any relationship not to pigeonhole. It's like somebody can arrive new and it's a miraculous epiphany they've had. And
Right.
like I've seen them be like, oh my gosh, I just realized such and such. And then they run to her door and they want to tell her this heartfelt message and she's standing there going,
Yeah, exactly.
and it's just, it's so sad because it's like, oh my gosh, you could start from that moment, you could start a brand new life.
You know, that's the funny thing
It's
is
down.
I've had a couple of comments on my channel that had that same exact example. And I'm
Right.
like, why are you even, if you don't want to be in a twin flame relationship anymore and you don't really care about this connection, why are you visiting twin flame channels? Like, that makes no sense at all. Like, you want to go in there and like,
they're like peeking through the bushes.
Yeah,
So what's going on though? I don't want to be with him, but what's going on?
Negative things on there and
Yeah.
nobody cares about that. I mean, you know, people are on there because even though they're going through a difficult time, they still want to be on the journey. They respect the journey and they want to better themselves. They're not doing it to bash people. And and so one of the things, like I said before, you know, with my divine feminine and me, you know, she cut off communication. So one of my boundaries is I'm not reaching out. Like, I will not reach out for not only respecting myself, but until I know that she's receptive and she's lowered those boundaries. Once she's lowered those boundaries and she's like, okay, I'm receptive, it's okay to communicate with me, however way that is, then I will be the king and I will come in and say, all right, I'm ready to take my divine feminine out on a date. You ready to be with a king? Let's go. And I will be daytime, place, whatever. She don't have to do anything.
You know, that's that I could not have said that better. And there have been times when I've really advised my feminines to just absolutely no contact, like just, you know, until something. But then it's like you get to a certain point, you have to, that's why it's an intuitive journey. There comes some point where the feminine has to think about, like, have I totally pushed him to where I seem like I'm completely like, no, you know? And if you've done that, then how are they supposed to feel like it's time that they can come around and make some kind of change or make an effort to even, how you doing, anything,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So sometimes
sometimes
they have to reach out again.
Yeah. Sometimes they feel like they can't reach out or they're going to be rejected.
Yeah.
You know? And so, and it
So
just
you gotta,
depends on the situation, I guess.
I think also, like, if they have something on their social media that you can respond to, that's nice too, because it shows that you're receptive, you're friendly. And it's like a weird thing because the feminines will be like, I'm not going to say anything. Well, it's like, but this just happened to your twin. Like, this is a huge, like, well, I'm not, no, because I've made enough effort or what I'm not. It's like, well, you know what? What's normal though?
Well, I mean, you know,
knowing that person, it's like, just respond kindly.
If your intuition, and this is where I go with intuition always, but if your intuition is pushing you to communicate, it doesn't hurt to send a quick, to the point message that basically there's no expectations involved at the message, and basically that allows them to know, hey, I'm receptive to communication, and I'm still thinking about you. And then even if they don't respond, worst case scenario, they don't respond, it more than likely is helping with their personal healing.
Yeah. And you get it off your chest and you get your feeling.
Right. Yep.
If you're coming from a heart space, pour out your heart. What's it ever going to hurt? But just don't have any expectations.
Yep. You're embodying unconditional love at that point.
Exactly.
So.
Okay, so I think I just have a couple more questions. What is, like, for the divine masculine, to support the divine masculines who are still being bricks, like, what would you suggest for them as tools? How did you grow past the brick stage?
Like I said before, the divine helped me really, really good. Basically, I was the twig that was breaking, and I was on my last splinter before becoming two pieces. And that's how much of a brick that I was. Like,
yeah.
Literally.
The universe has a way of doing that, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's the definition of insanity. You keep trying to implement a solution multiple times, and it failed. Trying it again and getting a different result is probably highly unlikely.
Yes.
But I like to try the same thing over and over again, because that's why I took so many remedial courses. And I'm pretty sure
we'll go through.
my angel team is probably sitting back and like, man, look at this dummy. He's going to do the same thing again. And you know what? He's going to end up falling off the tree and breaking his neck and, whatever. I'm like, let him keep doing that. He'll figure it out one of these days.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's an awakening process. It's a process. There's really nothing, unless you are aware and unless you want to change, it has to be a personal choice.
Yeah. And
it's kind of like the same aspect of, trying to help somebody get off drugs.
Right.
You're doing everything in your power to, like, take that person to get help, and, watching over them to make sure they don't have any, access to drugs and whatnot. But it ain't going to matter if their personal choice is to be on drugs.
Right.
I mean, it really has to do with, you have to take responsibility for your own actions and personal choice, because this is a world of free will. And if they choose to, like, go a different route, well, there's nothing you're going to do about it. And so
burn yourself out.
Yeah. The divine masculines have to basically want to help themselves. And you have to implement all the things we discussed in this video.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, I mean, you just answered one of the other questions is, how does the divine masculine get past skepticism? They just do naturally, over watching her spying. Right. A lot of masculines spy. So they figure it out over time.
Well, some of it, I'll touch on that. Spying sometimes is not just that. I explained this in my last video, but it's kind of like a kid that fills the bathtub up with too high water and jumps in, and then they get scalded. and then the next time and the time after that, every time after that, they're going to stick their toe in and feel the water before they jump in. Well, that's the same way with the divine masculine. They, after they go away from the divine feminine, after, all their anxieties and fears and stuff came up from the connection, now they go, they block them on every single thing. They might leave one thing open, but then what they want to do is once that pain and that pain and emotion and dies down and it becomes, they're not hurting anymore. Then once they get to that point of not hurting anymore, they want to peek in, be like, all right, let me see if, because they think that you're the one that's causing the pain. So they got to peek in to see if, all right, let's see how that feels. That's kind of them sticking their toe into the water to see if they're going to feel any more pain, or if it's going to slap them right back in the face again. Yeah.
That's just so funny. Because we're all thinking, we're love. It's like, sometimes that love thing can be very, very painful for you guys.
Well,
You're
I
not,
know.
if it's pointing back to you, it's still hurting in you, and unworthiness issues and all that stuff. And it's just like, that is a slap in the face. That's painful.
Well, a lot of times, and this even goes for me, like my divine feminine would always tell me, your energy is so high. And, and she's like, I need time alone because the energy of the connection, or either my energy was too strong, and basically like it would cause things to slap her right in the face. And
Mm.
I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, my energy, what are you talking about, my energy? Well, I didn't know anything about my energy. And so that's where, balancing your own personal energy and being aware of your energy is so important,
Yeah.
because the connection has a ton of energy by itself, but your own personal energy is another thing. And that's something that you can control. That's something that it takes being self-aware, and grounding yourself, and just making sure that your energies are balanced out, and not just like very, very high and extreme.
Mm-hmm.
So the divine feminine that might be one thing that they're not aware of, is that how your energy is actually causing those fears and stuff within the divine masculine to surface and slap them right in the face. And it's
Right.
very painful to them.
Yeah. A reminder of even like their own authenticity that they're not willing to face yet.
Mm-hmm.
The real them.
Right.
It's like you're seeing right through that mask, and they're like,
Yeah.
okay. Would you say that there are signs to union? Are there signs of union happening? How do you know when you're ready or
Absolutely.
it's about to happen?
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to know. And, of course, I'm not in union. So, I mean, people can take this with a grain of salt, because I just get this from my intuition. But, numbers, of course, tell you a lot of things. And I get synchronicities all the time. And actually, they increase all the time. And and you'll have dreams. Like, for instance, I just had a dream recently. I had a conversation with my divine feminine son, and
Oh, wow.
I've had dreams about all my divine feminine's kids. I mean, and it's always on a one-on-one basis. It's not with anybody else. It's just them and me
Mm.
having
Mhm.
conversations. Also, if you're in touch with your intuition, then because for me, energy equals words.
Mm.
So like I have like energy tells me, like I'm currently finishing up some personal things that was something it's going to finally close this chapter, and then I know that I have to like finish that up before um unions even considered, and because everything has to be correct in divine timing, and that's part of divine timing. And and uh
Well,
so
wouldn't you say though that sometimes the masculine takes that a bit far and he feels like everything has to be perfect before they can come in union?
no, I don't. Well, personally for me, I don't. I listen to my intuition, and my intuition told me that I needed that needs to be done. Like, you need to complete that, because that's one thing that
Get in the
hurts.
way.
Well, yeah, it gets in the way, but like the energy of that hurts your divine feminine, and
Okay.
you don't want to hurt your divine feminine. And
Yeah.
so like I know that is something that I have to do. I don't really look at everything having to be perfect, because nothing's ever going to be perfect. But you definitely want to close loose ends, and anything this has a potential to try to harm your relationship or harm your connection. And I don't feel like the divine will allow you to come into union until certain things are done. Um, that's just my personal feeling, and because of my situation. There's also, if you ask for synchronicities, or if you ask for signs from the divine, and you pray to your spirit team, um, you will get signs. You will get signs. It might not be whenever you want it. It might not be immediately, but you will get signs. And I think the more that those signs start increasing is the closer you get. And I think also you start feeling it inside. Like you get the feeling of something's happening. Like you start feeling a lot of joy and happiness. And, it's just the feeling becomes overwhelming. Like it's hard to ignore, kind of like whenever you first met your divine counterpart and you look them in the eyes, that feeling that you felt, it's like you can't ignore it.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So that's how I think that you would know.
How about just one last question? How does a divine feminine know when it's time to just go in another direction? I mean, I always tell feminines, like, just give up. Always just give up. Just surrender and let it go. Because I think that's so important. When you surrender and you stop having to control it all or have to have it happen, then you're causing problems and you're being too controlling. But if you can just let it go, not necessarily give up, but just really let it go and just, focus on yourself, then you can see with more clarity. You're not going to be all muddled with all of your wants and needs.
Yeah, I think definitely letting it go and surrendering is the key. Surrendering to the divine and trusting the divine, have faith, and just worry about yourself. Because when divine timing is just that. When it's divine timing, you're not going to be able to avoid it because your angel team, their angel team are working together to try to get you guys together. And whenever it's time, they're going to make sure that that person is at the same place or wherever you are at, and you guys run into each other or whatever. And it's no coincidences. There's no coincidences. It happens. It will happen. But it's got to be, whenever you're at that 80-90% of healing and self-improvement rate, where basically you have that last 10% that you can actually work on while you're together. Because you've already done all the hard work that you need to do by yourself. And that last 10%, can be healed through the love of your connection. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. That is so.
Actually, I did promise one of your, or I guess they subscribe to my channel too, but I have one last question because there's a lady that was on
Instagram.
Yeah. And so she was asking, and I didn't ignore her. I thought that she sent me an email, but she was asking if connecting in the 5D helps or harms your relationship or your connection. And I would tell you that it definitely helps and it never does harm. And the reason why it never does harm is because whenever you're in the 5D, it's your higher self. It's not your lower self. And your higher selves are connecting. Your higher selves know what's best for you at all times. And so, our lower selves have the opportunity, I would say, to have contact with our ego. But your higher self doesn't have that. Your higher self of what it is, higher self. It's your basically, it's your godly self, I would say. You're not, not God, but your spiritual soul-based connection. And so whenever you're meditating and you're connecting either through that or dream state, that's whenever you're actually helping the connection. And you can actually, the work that you're doing on yourself actually helps heal your divine counterpart. Or whenever you're speaking through telepathy, that's helping your counterpart. And I don't see there's no harm in that at all. There's no harm. And so, and actually that's the best way, I would say, while you're in separation, that is the best way to communicate with your divine counterpart, and actually should be highly encouraged.
Mm-hmm. Yay.
So I hope that answered that person's questions. If not, you can email me.
You can also do some visualization. You can picture them being a part of your life, them driving in the seat next, or being in the seat next to you, them being grocery shopping with you, making dinner. Imagine them with you already and help.
Well, I know that my divine feminine, she visits me a lot of times, and she's kind of like, she's my protector. And she, I mean, I have a lady that I really have a lot of faith in, that I was guided to during my awakening, and she told me that my divine feminine's higher self told me that she watches over me at night and that she's my protector. And I do. I feel her energy around me all the time. So so yeah, I mean, you have a divine connection, and you're not gonna hamper it. Actually, you're gonna help it by connecting in the 5D.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yes. So thank you so much.
yeah.
And anyone who wants to get a free reading, you can call my podcast on Sundays at what is the number? 256-291-1191. That's every Sunday, 6:30 Mountain Time.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me on Instagram, Amy Satori, or where do they find you?
So, I mean, I would just like to say thanks for having me on your show. This is my first collaboration. I have a few more collaborations that I have planned, but you are my first collaboration, so you're actually very special. Also, you can visit my channel on YouTube, King Tridents Tribe, or Instagram, King Tridents Tribe, or you can email me at kingtridentstribe@gmail.com. I also opened up on Instago some coaching sessions that I will be doing in my spare time, just if people want to.
Oh, where'd you go?
I don't know.
There you go.
Anyway, so
that's great.
But yeah, so that's a new part of my my journey, but that's not. I want to say that you can still email me, and whenever I can get to it, I will answer your email still. But people just need to be patient, because I've really been overwhelmed with the emails and comments lately, and it's been really tough to try to catch up.
You went from like I don't even know what you went from like 20 people watching your videos to thousands overnight.
I literally went from 5 subscribers in December to where I am now, which is like I think I'm at like 2,500 subscribers right now.
Oh, and this is just the beginning. Just
in this month, I think I've gained 1,800 subscribers.
Wow.
So I mean, not to brag or anything, but
divinely guided.
I know. I just want to say that it's really been tough. I really try my best to answer everybody's comments and emails, but it really has been a little bit overwhelming, and I have to like work on myself and make sure that I maintain my energy level and that I'm giving people the proper respect, not just giving them some BS response. So anyway, I really appreciate you having me on your show. And
you know what? One thing that impressed me about you too was I asked you to do the collaboration. I just had this incredible draw, just like you got to get because I already knew you were going to be doing this. I didn't know who this was going to be. I knew a masculine would step up and do this.
Mm-hmm.
You showed up. I was like, there he is. So I contacted you. You didn't just automatically say yes. You said, let me take a look at this. Let me see how I feel. Let me go in intuitively and see if it would be for the best good of all. And let me really think about it. And I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Is truly a divine masculine.
Well, I will say this. Unfortunately, I have had to turn some people away from collaborations just because I didn't feel energy-wise that it was in the best for me or for the collective. And so it's not out of disrespect for them, because I'm sure they're trying to do the best to try to help some people out. But I just don't feel like that it would have been best for neither one of us. And so if it's not in the highest good, then I won't do it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Well, so thank you for being such an incredible example. And thank you for putting yourself out there in such a vulnerable way with all of us today.
I really appreciate y'all.
Let me pick you apart and get in that brain.
Yeah, go ahead and shoot all my answers down. That's cool. I won't be the first or the last.
All right, so thanks everybody so much for watching this video, and we'll catch you the next time we do one of these, I suppose. All
See you later.
right, bye.
Bye.